Welcome to the Brave Enough Show, Dr. Chrissie Ott. I am so excited to see you and have you on the show. I met you about a year ago in person, not quite a year ago, and we connected right away on a shuttle. Um, and, I'm so excited to have you on the show today because this season is all about taking risk and really stepping out of our comfort zone and listening to that little voice that I think so many of us hear and often ignore. And you and I are going to be talking today specifically, and you've agreed to share, which I'm really excited about, kind of burning the backup plan and what that means. And really those moments in your life that you can think of where you had to be courageous and you didn't have a backup plan. So before we get into this fantastic conversation, can you share with our listeners a little bit about you?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Sasha. It is a pleasure to be here. I am Chrissie Ott. I'm a physician coach, trained med peds, Baylor College of Medicine, and I live in Portland, Oregon now, and I care for medically complex kids at a long-term care skilled nursing facility and lead well-being work and physician coaching work as well. I have had a very circuitous route through medicine. I came as a massage therapist, dancer, Pilates instructor into healthcare and went, hey, how did I end up here? That's interesting. And so having some of that energy with me throughout has kind of come full circle in this chapter of leading well-being work and advocating for physician self-empowerment and sovereignty and courage. So I am excited to talk about this topic with you today.
I'm really excited to talk about it with you. And, you're one of these people that, when I met you, I was like, oh, she's a doctor. Like, this is how I saw you. And so I think it's so interesting for people because a lot of times people think, doctors are these they put doctors up on a pedestal, or they put, certain professionals up here. And are they real people? Do they have, real lives and real struggles? And yet when you also say, I taught Pilates and I was a dancer and I have this very artistic side to me and I was a massage therapist, that also checks all the boxes. Once I met you, I was like, oh yeah, I could see her doing that. Right. And so I love your journey and how sharing your journey and how you became a physician and then also transitioned again into doing something beyond clinical work is such a cool story. And so I want to ask you, first of all, when was a time in your life where you can look back and be like, wow, I really took a risk and I burned the backup plan. Like, I didn't have a backup plan and it was sink or swim. Can you talk to us about a time in your life?
Yeah, the first time that resonates for me was actually very, very early. I moved out of my parental home on my 18th birthday because I could not get a lease in my name before my 18th birthday, or I would have gone sooner. But I had already graduated high school before turning 18, and instead of going straight to college, which is what most of my friends were doing, I actually had a block in the way. My dad hadn't filed taxes, so I could not produce a FAFSA form. So even though I had an NYU scholarship, I couldn't find out how much or take the next step because they still considered me linked to his financial stuff. So I knew that part of my life was over. And it really felt like burning the ships to step out on my 18th birthday and be like, I am now separated. It is not a gradual process. It is really like, I will sleep on the floor of my tiny apartment. I will wait tables.
Wow.
I will dance. I will do whatever I need to do to subsist on my own, but I am no longer a part of that unit. And, many things occurred, but this was the reason it took 3 years between high school and me beginning college, and ended up like really growing me up in a way I didn't know was going to happen, that prepared me beautifully for a career serving patients in medicine. So yeah, that was my first experience of like, burn the ships. I have no backup plan. It is really just me and my bootstraps.
So you are a mom and you have a daughter. And when you think of her doing that, like in, 10 years or 30, what,
Woo.
like, right. Like, doesn't that just give you like, whoa, like,
I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my gut. I feel like such a strong, I would not let that happen. Like, how could that have happened? And also like, bless my people's heart. That was their best at the time.
mm. So I'm hearing when you talk about it, you talk about it from a very positive side, and you're saying like it grew me up beautifully. You use that word or that language, I think. Um, it allowed me to develop. It gave me the skills, and I think of like, okay, you could be saying something much different. And I am sure that not every moment of those 3 years was beautiful. And you probably didn't wake up every day going, this is amazing. I'm becoming such a mature adult and I'm learning life skills that are going to be with me forever. I mean, that's probably, I'm guessing, not the feeling you had all the time. So how can you look back at that time and go, it's okay. Like the people that were there they were doing the best they could. And it was hard. And
Yeah.
I turned out to be something that it's okay. Can you
It's such
talk
a
about
fine
that?
line to make sure that we're not silver lining
Mm.
things prematurely or toxic positivity-ing them. I just made that a verb. Um, and it certainly was not all like roses along the way. There was a lot of grit and a lot of struggle. Um, and the making meaning part later on requires that important shift of these things happened for me instead of to me, that I actually could go in and reclaim the power and the benefit that came through that unusual circumstance and make that part of my narrative be like, yeah, and I am a warrior because of it. I can rely on myself
Mm-hmm.
because of it. And confusion has occurred because of it too, that feels like it needs decades of working out. Um, but it really did, it made a difference in who I became over time.
Yeah. And so you basically left home. You had no backup plan. You had no cushion to fall on. You had no, trust fund. You had no like, right? You
I
just
had a
were like,
mistrust
here I
fund,
go.
Sasha.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And so, but it's interesting because I think sometimes things that we look back and go like, that was so hard, and that was so really, really difficult and challenging and hurtful or painful. You also can look back at those times of your life and go, that was like a pivotal moment of change for me. And I learned so much
Hmm.
that, number one, I won't generationally repeat, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's what I
That's
think
right.
about in my own childhood. I think, wow, I was privy to a lot of things that I thought, I'm never doing that. And I haven't. And I'm proud of
Hmm.
that. Like, I'm breaking
Hmm.
generational trauma. But also, like, sometimes I'm thankful for the struggles when you get far enough away, right? You
Yes.
can be like, oh gosh, I'm so glad that I wasn't a trust fund baby and I've never had to. I know how to do all these things. I know how to take risks. I know how to be brave because I had to do it at age 18.
That's right. The next one that actually popped up is I was 26 and it was the end of my first year of medical school when I ended my marriage with my first husband. And there is this moment in time that is inked in my brain forever. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, it's raining, and I'm walking because my new apartment was like walking distance from our townhouse. I'm walking in the rain with two garbage bags over to my new apartment. I don't know why I was walking and not taking the car. Something weird must have been going on. But I'm literally walking in the rain with garbage bags to like move myself into this other place. So I'm in medical school. I have no significant income, but I know that I no longer I cannot stay in this marriage no matter what plan B looks like. So it was really another step into the unknown and so much of a prayer for clarity. And like, I just needed to know what the one next step was. I couldn't even think about the second step, but the one step
Mm.
was, let me
Mm.
move the things that I need to my apartment at 6 o'clock in the morning in the rain to
With
declare my
bags, with
independence.
sacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, don't you think that people see like you and I doing different things than maybe traditional, medicine says we should be doing? You and I are both similar that way. We have different paths that we've
Mm,
taken and twists and
yes.
turns.
Hmm.
And it's easy for people to look on Instagram and see the really beautiful pictures and the curated colored board quotes and say like, wow, these two women have it together and they did a brave and courageous thing. But getting to point, wherever we are right now, really started with like brave, courageous, small steps, right? Like
Yeah.
really small steps. Okay, hold on. I'm getting an error. Are you getting an error message? I'm just going to
No error
pause here
message
for a
right now.
second. Okay. Oh, let's see. I'm just going to close this. Well, now it went away. Okay. Just going to pause
Okay.
and we'll restart. Okay, so getting to that point from point A to point B just really started with very small steps, like following that little voice, like, what would this look like? Or maybe
Mm,
I'm called to do something different. And sometimes it's not necessarily like, I'm in a bad place, I've got to get out of this place. But sometimes it's just like, ooh, there's something over there for me. Or I'm going to sign up for this conference, or I'm going to sign up for this webinar, or I'm going to just do this coaching thing for a coaching session and find out what coaching's about. It doesn't necessarily mean you're in a miserable place. I think that's a common, misconception. It may be that just something doesn't feel right and something else does feel right. Or opposite end of the spectrum, you may find yourself in a situation where you're forced to do something different because of
mhm.
circumstances.
Yes.
Um, can you kind of talk through, because you're a coach, you also experienced this yourself. How do people think it's this big leap, but it's these small brave steps where you do have to trust yourself. Like you do have to put your own foot on the ground and say, I'm going to follow this path. What do you think in your like what has allowed you to follow that? Because you've taken lots of twists and turns.
Yes. I've taken a lot of faith filled steps. And I think that some of that goes back to developing a metacognitive awareness of self. And I credit that really with, meditation practices. But when I decided to change it up and actually close my solo micro practice in 2015, 16, it came directly from a meditation where I realized suddenly it was in my awareness, oh, I am not actually enjoying this anymore. This is
Mm.
causing me harm. And the thought, so actually like having some relationship and mind control, mind direction, noticing, something is actually not working here, instead of just being immersed and face planted continually in the effect of that, which is the chronic emotional state, the mood, the cynicism, the impatience, the generalized discontent that can metastasize through our life and then accidentally show up in our relationships with the people that we really want to be closest with.
So what you're saying is that, if I'm hearing you correctly, is it really started with a pause
Yeah.
and giving yourself time to understand self through meditation, through really being present in for yourself, that you could actually go, oh, like call it taking your pulse,
Yeah. Yeah.
just taking your pulse and going, what is going on with me right now? Like what am I feeling? What am I thinking? And I'm just going to be present in the moment and listen, because Our world is not that. Our world is busy, hustle, go, don't stop, multitask, do as
Mhm.
many things as you can. Be on your phone as you're walking through a hallway, be on your phone in an
Yes.
elevator, listen to a podcast when you're driving, like listen to a podcast to better yourself when you're on a walk, like constantly
Oh
be
my
bettering yourself and
gosh.
just consuming. And I love that you just shared that your path really became more clear when you paused and you listened to yourself and you got like quiet. So, what is that
Absolutely.
practice like for you now? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have a meditation practice that I try to do daily, succeed with daily most of the time. And it may be short or it may be longer, but it's definitely a touchstone grounding part of how I make my capacity to be in the world and to be with my own heart of courage and to keep doing the brave and most self aligned thing, the thing that is most aligned with
Mm.
my personal mission as I understand it,
Mm.
regardless of what train tracks are put before me by, medicine culture or even larger culture. I think healthcare trains us to avoid risk. That's part of being a highly reliable organization. We minimize and mitigate risk. We follow protocols. We don't necessarily reward being self aligned or daring, but
Right. I think I would say we
we do.
disencourage. I mean, we discourage that.
We distance ourselves from it, absolutely. But there is a way that when you know what it is that you're most deeply given to and aligned with, you can have your own back to start taking small steps toward
Mm-hmm.
it. And it doesn't have to be leaving a terrible situation, as you said. It could be just gradually noticing this is no longer growing me. This situation
Mm-hmm.
is not growing me right now, and therefore it is not in my highest best interest. What is it you're really called to next?
And I love that, and I love that it's not growing you because I think of like people that operate in this zone of comfort. And certainly I have operated there and found myself in that zone of comfort where I'm good at what I do. I know what I'm doing. I don't get stressed. Um, but I'm also not being challenged. I don't know that I'm really aligned with my own mission. I don't feel like I'm
Mhm.
tapping in and utilizing my talents and skills, and I'm not really following the joy, right? Like,
Ah,
um,
yes.
and so I find it really interesting that a lot of times for us to follow the joy and to be aligned, we have to take risk. We have to have our own back and we have to be willing to fail. That comes with failures. That comes with learning opportunities, as I like to say, and data collection that says, that wasn't your best, Sash. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing here. Maybe you should consult someone. So, if you really want that in life, it's very hard to stay comfortable and also follow the joy all the time. Like, you can't, it's just really hard to do that. And I love that you are so open about that and you're so like open that like this was not growing me and I knew I was called to something else. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Well, my first job out of residency was a very conventional outpatient practice. And even though I was new and had lots to learn, I knew immediately this job would not grow me over time.
Mm.
Um, and and I left it to do the unimaginable thing at the time of opening a solo micro practice. Had the impetus been a little bit further along, it probably would have been a direct care practice. Had I had access to coaching, it probably would still be open. But, the joy of creating that was also just sky high for me. I am most fulfilled when I am being of joyful service, when I am experiencing joy and being of service at the same time at a very high level. And like many, all of your listeners, really, like the people in this um, field are incredibly talented. They have vision, they have purpose. They came to this work with something in their heart that needed to be expressed. And the healthcare system is needed. And also, it does not serve all of us all the time in staying in a growth trajectory that is aligned. And as you know from our previous conversations, I think joy is about meaning, alignment, and delight. And we really need all three of those to have a sustainable experience of deep, deep joy.
I love that. I love the delight
It's
because
crucial.
it's crucial and it's okay, right? Like it's okay to do work that delights you.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we think like our work has to have drudgery or has to have some negative elements or else it's not real work, and
Yeah.
I know, and I'm sure it's the same for you. Like when I'm doing what I'm doing right now with you and Brave Enough, and that work for women that I do for women, it doesn't, yes, it's work, but it's not, it is so delightful that I get so much joy from it that I'm like, I could do this tomorrow. I'm excited to do it the next day and the next day and the
Yes.
next day.
Yes.
And I'm going to do it until it's not exciting, until something else is exciting. And,
Yes.
I heard something the other day, I went to a talk and a woman said, that I don't know. She's not in medicine. She was a very successful entrepreneur and businesswoman. She owned like 7 or 8 companies and had founded and sold about 7 or 8 companies. And she was probably in her, I would say, early 70s. And she stood up and she said what her name was. And she said, I've had many careers. That's how she introduced herself. And I was like, that is so, I've never heard someone say that. I've never heard someone, and she just said, I'm so and so, I have a background in blah blah blah, and I've had many careers. And those careers have led me to blah blah. And then she just launched into her, 15-minute talk. And I was stuck on that comment because I was like, wow, she grew up in a generation where there's not a lot of her. Like there's not a lot of women who are in their early 70s who can say they founded and sold, 7 or 8 million dollar companies.
Yeah.
And that she was so like matter of fact and just factual about she's had many careers and that's okay.
And she just gave
Like it's
permission to every woman in the room to have
yes,
many careers
yes. And I
by
just was like,
example.
and I was like, I struggle so much, so many times in my life with thinking, what is this person going to say when I start this? Or what is this person going to say when I quit this? Or
Mhm.
what is this person going to think of me when I say, I don't have an interest in this anymore, or this isn't growing me. I'm going to move on to this. I'm going to let this
Yes.
person down. I'm going to disappoint this person. I'm going to whatever. And yet, I was like, wow, I want to be that woman who says at the end of my career, I've had many careers and given myself permission to do that.
Yes. And maybe just like, I feel complete with this. I have no complaints, but I feel it's a complete experience. And for that
Yes.
reason, I will be moving on.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that
Toodles.
amazing? Yeah.
Hasta
So,
la vista, baby.
yes.
It can feel like such sacrilege, especially in healthcare, to leave a position where you have
Mm-hmm.
longevity, where you have tenure,
Mm-hmm.
seniority, uh, or to decline a promotion or an academic appointment because you're actually not aligned with consenting to what else it would bring or take from your life. I am here to just remind all of us that just because it seems like a sacrilege actually doesn't mean it is. That those can be acts of spiritual arson, that we're actually stepping into our sacred work, our W,
Mm,
capital W work in the world when we say no to the thing that is not an energetic match for our deepest why and our deepest how.
mhm. I love that. That's so beautiful. We could just end the podcast on that and it would make me happy. And and just not feeling bad that you're not aligned. You know, taking I use this with my coaching clients a lot. You know, they say, well, they asked me to do this and I'm so honored and I'm so flattered. And I said, be honored, be flattered, but separate the ask from the answer, because the ask is a compliment to your ethics and your leadership and your potential and your previous work. But the answer is your agency and your future and what you want for yourself. And you have to separate those two things. And I think, especially for women, we fall into this limiting belief in this thinking trap that, well, someone asked me and I can't believe I was asked. I cannot believe I was chosen. I have to be the anointed one and be the sacrificial lamb to do whatever it is, even though I don't want to do it. And so I love that you just said that and gave permission for
Yeah.
us to say, does this really align with our deep work?
Yes. Someone close to me just played this out in a spectacular way as a mentor. Kathy Steppen had the inner sight, the insight that she felt complete with her leadership of the Physician Coaching Summit. And even though she loves it, even though nothing had gone wrong, even though she's still aligned with it, something different was calling her. And
Mm-hmm.
she asked me, would you be interested? Do you have bandwidth for this? And the answer was interested. I have a bodily yes. Bandwidth, that is a whole other conversation. But, like burning the backup plan, I was said, yes, my body tells me this is a yes, that this will grow me in
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, unpredictable, spectacular ways. And I am aligned with being of service and a connecting hub in this incredible community of
Mm-hmm.
physician coaches who are basically advocates and activists on behalf of one another and all of our physician family in this world that needs those voices so much right now. So, talk about burning a backup plan and saying, you know what, I have completion here. I will pass the reins to the next person.
I love that. And I love that she entrusted you to do that, and that your instant thought wasn't, I can't do this. That, you know, you were really open to it. And I mean, it's risky. Like it's very risky. Let's be honest. Putting
Oh my
on
God.
a live event in 2025 is very risky. And a
Yes.
lot of people that don't know that, because there's just a handful of people who do it, and you don't realize like how much money you have to put forward for the
Real talk.
venue. And you're
Oh my
really
gosh.
saying like, these people are going to come even though you haven't sold one ticket. Like, it is major, not just financially risky, it's also your reputation, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's risky all the way around. And not to mention, like, is the content going to be, can I pull this off, like the
Can
whole
I pull it
thing?
off? Can
It's
I
just a
make it
lot.
amazing? Will all
Yeah.
of my, these people that I love and admire believe in this experience with me? And I will
Yeah.
be glad to tell you that it's going really well. I have high aspirations for this event, but also on the serious side, like I'm on the phone today with my business Amex Gold card saying, I need for you to accept a $24,000 charge today.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know. Not to mention, like, let's just hope and pray that there's not a pandemic, or, I
I
mean,
know, knock
just
on
the
wood.
risk. Yes. I mean, the risk of
Right.
it is huge. People do not understand. Like, they don't do it unless you do it. And I get it because I do it. It is so
Yes.
hard, but it's going to be amazing. I went last year for the first time, And it was a very safe place. It was a beautiful experience. And I can't wait to see what you pull off.
Thank you so much, Sasha. I am excited, and it's part of my dream life every day. I'm just in it every
That's
day.
amazing. Well, tell us a little bit about it. Share where people can hear about you, find out more, follow you, and tell us about the coaching summit.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, Chrissie Ott, MD. My coaching business is JoyPoint Solutions, which is joypointsolutions.com. And the Physician Coaching Summit is on Instagram. It's a really fun little page. And the physiciancoachingsummit.com is the website. The dates are November 6th to 8th. We're going to be in Arizona at Savannah Wellness Resort and Spa, which is so beautiful. And it really reminds me of a slightly lower key Miraval. It has a ton of programming, and it's just very, very supportive and beautiful desert space. We have a fantastic lineup of physicians and increasingly like some really cool sponsors, which is something that I haven't seen at PCS so much in the past, but I'm really excited about that. Cesar Cervantes is one of our keynote speakers, and he's a well-known TEDx speaker coach who has actually
Yeah.
gotten a ton of physicians on TEDx stages, and is just a delightful, delightful human being. I'm the host of the Solving for Joy podcast. You can actually hear Caesar on that podcast and quite a few of the speakers there as well. But I'm
That's
just, my heart
amazing.
is full at how it's going and where it's going to go.
That's amazing. Well, I'm not surprised because it is aligned with you. And so, when we put our effort and energy into something that we believe in, it's going to work out. It's going to be successful. It may not be successful in the way that we imagine, but I always tell people, you're never going to lose when you're following what really brings you joy and you're putting your energy into it, right? Like
It's
it's a
totally
win-win.
true. It's totally
Yeah.
true. This is an extra thought, but Stacy Bayman is a business coach who I follow, and she's doing this container right now called ROI, Return on Investment, and teaching a lot of principles about making sure that we have our own backs. Having our own backs is
Mm-hmm.
actually the theme of the Physician Coaching Summit. When we make investments, when we have experiences, that we are our own personal guarantee that we are going to show up and actively extract value from the proposition rather than wait for it to be sprinkled upon us or spoon fed to us, or tell ourselves stories about how we were disappointed in the setup or the details or the food or whatever. So I'm just
Right.
really like gratefully marinating in the activation of that teaching. Like we all have
Yeah.
the power to extract value from whatever situation we're in, whether it is our career situation, our home situation, or investments in learning. Um,
Yeah.
I
So
love where
true.
that puts my mindset.
Yes. Yes. And it's so true. Like it's kind of like we also have the ability on that line to define our own success and to hold it and go, okay, so this may not have been perfect, or this didn't, somebody complained about Diet Coke versus Coke Zero, but that wasn't what I was gauging as success for this event, right?
Right.
Like these are the successful metrics. And I think that's so empowering for our own self-agency and to really extract that value, as you've just mentioned. Well, thank you so much for coming on and giving your time today. This has been an awesome conversation. And if you're listening, we will put all of Dr. Ott's information and the conference information, etc., in the show notes, so you can link to those. And please go and stop what you're doing. Give her a follow, give her a shout out, encourage her, thank her for being on the show and for everything she shares with our community today.
Thank you, Dr. Sasha Shillcutt. It is truly a pleasure to know you and to join you today. I will see you soon, my friend.